Hello and welcome to Beers Before Bros. I'm your host, Anthony.
I am Dre Santos.
I'm Leo D'Souza.
Oh boy, are we ready for this? And just like we said before, we're going to crack open our beer of the day.
What is the beer of the day, Anthony?
Of the day of the podcast.
Of the day of the podcast.
He was itching to look at it first.
I am. Anthony, for some reason, is keeping this from me. So I do not know anything about this beer. Apparently, it's called Landshark Premium Lager Quality.
Yep.
Island style lager.
An island style lager. Now
What does that mean?
Interesting. I don't know.
Now, again, for those, the people that know a little bit about beer, lagers are a lighter beer. So usually when you're looking at a can or a bottle of lager, you will not find an IBU because
They're not bitter, really.
it's so low that there's no point. So Anthony, tell us about this beer and why did you get this one specific?
So I was thinking about it. The amount of times that we've had lagers, it was mostly German lagers, and well, it's a island style lager, which is from Margaritaville, which and the thing says Landshark Lager.
So for the
Fins up.
for the uninitiated, what does island style lager mean instead of like a normal lager?
Can I just say it this way? Probably because it was made on an island.
I mean, I get that, but like, what makes it?
I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's premium quality.
Sure.
There is probably a difference.
No, there probably is.
It's
Probably
a
like
way.
tropical ingredients, maybe.
Well, it's tropical hops, pretty much.
We need one for Actually.
Oh, yeah.
Our cameraman, actually.
Cameraman also gets one. Here you go, cameraman. And crack. And then
Cameraman
crack
wanted
it open
a
for
beer.
you. Here you go, my friend.
All right. And we're using a style of glass that makes it sure it's mixed. So
Cheers.
cheers.
Leo and his tea. By the way, Leo is drinking green tea with honey.
Yes.
Ooh. Yeah.
There's nothing special about this beer. I'm sorry, Landshark or Margaritaville, if you're watching this, which you're probably not, but there's really nothing
There's
special
nothing
about this.
really special, yeah. But it was. Can you guess the price, Leo?
Knowing, I'd say like $10.
$10? All right. It was actually $5. So
For
that was,
four?
yeah, for four. So
Now,
that
that's
was,
when you know that it is not very good because
Right.
usually craft beers, they come in cans like that,
Yeah.
a pack of 4, and they go anywhere from $12 to $20. So the fact that a pack of 4 was $5 should have been a warning sign that this is not very good.
but I mean, you still got to try it.
Now, the question is, if you're talking about lager,
Yep.
lighter beer,
Yep.
is it tastier than Corona?
Now
Let's
I have to taste it again.
Let's take another sip.
No. I think it just tastes like water, dirty water. That's what it tastes like.
I wouldn't say dirty water, but
I don't think the hops are very nice.
yeah, it doesn't taste like it tastes like light beer.
I mean,
And if you've had beer before, you know what we're talking about. But there is a distinct taste. It's not that it doesn't taste like anything. It does taste like beer,
yeah.
but it's very watered down beer.
Yeah.
It's almost as if you were, by the way, never do this, but if you were to put ice on your beer and you left the ice there for a very long time, and then the ice, after a long time, as we all know,
Sounds
it
delicious.
would start to melt and become water. And then if you were to drink said ice after a very long time, it wouldn't taste as good as before. You can apply that that idea to any other drink.
Yeah.
Coke, sodas, juice.
Anything.
If you put a lot of ice, you leave it for a long time, it just
Dilutes.
dilutes. Thank you. Dilutes down the flavor, and that's
That's
kind of
kinda-
what this beer is. It's just not.
Even with it mixing
So,
constantly.
what do you guys say? This is worse than Corona?
Yeah, I think I like Corona better.
Wow, that's actually saying something.
Well, I mean, I
Because
keep telling you guys
yeah.
this, but like,
Because stereotypically, Corona is like
well,
the lowest quality beer.
It really is.
not really. Bud Light is pretty.
I said like
I'd say.
stereotypically, like everybody thinks like Corona is like a joke or something.
Okay, now, out of 5, Anthony, what would you give it?
2.
2 out of 5. I would
Yeah.
give it a 1.5 out of 5.
Yeah, it's not that great. It's not.
It's really not. If you want to,
Not the
See?
greatest. Not the greatest. But
it's not
Yeah.
not the best beer, but you know
So-
that's part of that's part of tasting beer. You have to try the shitty ones, the ones in between, and the
And-
wicked good ones, and see what you like.
yeah, next time we'll probably get a pretty good one. All right. But so today we were thinking about exactly what to talk about. And we're doing it a little bit earlier than we normally would. But since we drink beer on the podcast every single time, why don't we start off with alcohol? How about that, huh?
So we're talking about alcohol today.
Yeah, alcohol.
Yeah.
So here's the thing, though. If anybody's going to talk about alcohol, you got to just say outright, what's your favorite drink? If you were, say it's beer, wine, hard liquor, maybe a mixed drink that you think about every time, and you're like, damn, alcohol. That's what I
I'll
want.
do one better. If you were stuck on an island and you had one alcoholic beverage to choose to live the rest of your life with, what would it be?
Oh, no.
For me, that's easy.
It has to be an alcoholic beverage.
It has to
Yeah.
be. Yeah.
For me, that's easy. It's a cider. Like
Any type of cider, though?
I think Angry Orchard is my go-to.
Okay.
It's just because I just really do not like beer. I've tried a couple. Stella Artois is just like way too bitter. Sam Adams. Like,
By the way, Stella is another lager.
Yeah.
yeah. Sam Adams. Blue Moon was okay, but still, like I cannot get over that bitter aftertaste.
Yeah.
So like that's why I just stick to a cider.
Okay. What about you, Anthony? What would you?
Dude, anything from Night Shift. I'll be honest with you. Not even a whiskey would beat that. I think every time that I've had, like the last one that I've had was Whirlpool. Oh man, I was in heaven. And not only that, but whiskey, it'll like you drink it, but every time you sip at it, you have to like constantly think about how it tastes before like, you get drunk. Because you can get drunk really fast, but with like any beer, it's a lot easier to just sip on and be able to have a couple before like actually getting to the moment where you're drunk or tipsy. What about you, Dre?
I'm thinking. I'm looking at
See?
the frame. I'm looking at the frame of all the beers that we had.
Careful with this.
Yep. Oh boy.
This is how many
Oh, I
they've
love that
had.
noise though.
More than that though. But those are the ones. Okay.
Would it be? Oh, Leo.
Sorry for your ears, guys.
Oh, that's definitely getting cut out. What about a Brazilian beer?
You see, I'm not too familiar with the Brazilian beers. I've had a few.
Right.
I've only had one.
Which one?
Brahma.
Brahma. Yeah. Brahma is like a little bit better version
Honestly,
of
I
Corona.
actually like
Okay.
out of all the beers I've tried, that was probably my favorite because it was
Really?
not overpowering.
Overpowering.
Like it wasn't really bitter. It was just like the right amount. It was like really
Really?
balanced.
They
Okay.
pride themselves.
Then you can try this.
From
I'd
what
be
they
okay.
They pride themselves of what they say is the round taste. It's in Portuguese is a cerveja que desce redondo.
Oh yeah.
No, that's Skol. Never
That's
mind.
Skol,
That's
yeah.
Skol. Never mind. But I think
What is it in Portuguese?
what
What's it called?
What?
Beer.
cerveja.
Ah, no, not that word. There was another one. Started
Cerveja.
like it was like SH. or-
Chopp.
Yeah, that's the one.
That's
Sharpie.
rum.
Shorpy.
Nope.
Are you sure?
Shorpy. Yeah, Shorpy is kind of like a beer with a lot of head. Which there's no,
Yeah.
but that's the thing. It's weird because there's no equivalent of that here in the United States.
Yeah, because head is bad here.
Which is, but that is true. Now I'm thinking about it, remembering, because what happens is if you put a lot of head on the beer, it dilutes the taste too. It kind of
No, it's not. That doesn't definitely happen. It's just the CO2 is just rising and it keeps the flavor mixing. What it is like here when we say there's too much head is because you're not getting enough beer. So it's not the delusion. It's definitely just the amount of see, like after the head left here, like this is all I get. Like I'm paid $6, $7, $8 for this, and this is what I get, or $10 at some places.
So then it's like, why would you want like a? See, there has to be something about Shorpy beer with head that would be marketable.
Yeah,
It's not just the fact that, you're getting less beer for the same amount of price. There's something about the way that's poured that brings something out or that differentiates the taste.
yeah, it's kind of weird, but
Because it is really huge in Brazil.
Mhm.
Shorpy is very, very big. But anyways, I think the beer that I would go to if I were stuck in an island. Now, here's the thing, because I'm thinking about it. If I were stuck in an island, I wouldn't want a beer that is high in alcoholic volume, or I would be.
And mind you, it doesn't have to be beer, like alcoholic drink.
but here's the thing.
I'm
like,
a
why would
lightweight.
you- yeah,
I'm a lightweight, so if I were to choose whiskey, I would die really quickly because I'll just be drunk.
But either way, as much
all
as
the
I love
time.
whiskey, I still wouldn't do it.
Yeah, it's not a sustainable drink. Like, you can't
Yeah.
just, I'm just going to drink this for the rest of my life. Because here's the thing. Beer is a great source of
I mean,
nutrients.
of course, is that like the only drink you're gonna have? You can't have like
No,
water,
I
or
told
juice,
you. Yeah,
juice, or
it's
anything.
the only, you could only have one drink.
Yeah,
So that,
Yeah,
so
no,
it-
then you're definitely screwed, man.
So you thought of it just because it's like your favorite. I'm thinking which one would last me the longest.
yeah.
So I
Wait, what?
wouldn't- like last me the longest
here-
as and I couldn't choose a beer with high alcoholic volume because then that would just get in the way of me being able to survive. So we'll have to choose one that is a bit lower in
you'll be
alcoholic
too
volume.
incoherent?
I'll be
to-
too incoherent to actually do anything. So with that said, I'll probably choose any of the beers, virtually any of the beers from Line and Kugels. Line and Kugels is a brewery in, what's the name?
Wisconsin?
It might have
No.
been in Wisconsin. No. What's the state?
Michigan?
Michigan. It's from Michigan.
Yeah.
Yes. And we went there to their brewery. Oh, man. Their beers are so good, especially the Berry Weiss.
They
Oh,
Berry Weiss, yeah.
so good. It is so good.
Yeah, but it sounds good.
So that's what I would go to.
That's a go-to.
I also like wine very much. Wine is really good.
Wine does taste good. But it's like you have to be in the mood for wine. You have to be like, I really want some wine. For me,
I always felt like wine was for special occasions or like a romantic dinner. Like people just don't, or like unless my dad, one time like there was a time where like he had a glass before he went to bed.
mm-hmm.
So, I don't know.
That's interesting
Yeah.
because that's a very cultural thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because if you go, I don't know, to Italy, I don't know many like Italians have never been to Italy, but word on the street is that they drink a lot of wine.
The internet told me.
I feel like I feel like every country or like every region they have their choice of alcohol. Like they have like their pride drink. Like for example, the Russians they have vodka.
Yeah.
Italians they have wine.
Mm.
Japan they have sake.
And they have some Japanese whiskey that's pretty good too.
Yep. And Germans beer, of course. Like
yeah.
in Ireland, they
They're-
also pride themselves in their beer.
Mhm.
Scotch.
And in Brazil,
Most of their Scotch, yeah.
we have cachaça.
Cachaça.
And for those who don't know what cachaça is, which is basically
Forgot Mexico.
I don't know what.
Yeah, what happened?
Come on,
I
bro.
mean, it's
Tequila.
Oh, tequila.
He's
There's tequilas, margaritas, whatever.
tequila.
Peru is oh man, I brought some
Pisco.
pisco. Yes,
Yeah.
pisco.
But I was saying,
that stuff
for
is
those who
hardcore.
don't know, cachaça, which is basically alcohol made from sugarcane.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. But here's the thing. As we talk about, beer, we talk about wine, we talk about whiskey, where does it all originate?
I actually like this is what I actually
What
like to
did
talk about.
what were these people thinking in the first place of how they got these drinks? Because that's
Honestly,
a real
I
question.
heard one theory is
Mm.
that if you're going to go through the evolution route,
Yeah.
it's basically our primitive ancestors eating fermented fruit.
Oh, look at Leo. He did his research.
I know. you did.
And from eating fermented fruit, they had like this weird after effect, like, oh, whoa, wow, like that felt
I'm
good.
feeling weird.
Yeah. And then they found out that fermented fruit or food or whatever has this weird side effect when they eat it.
Yeah.
That's called the drunken ape hypothesis, and
The drunken ape theory.
It's
says
actually
and
it is exactly
states-
no, because there's two there are two theories that are very similar. It's a drunken ape theory and the high ape theory. And we're not talking about drugs today, so I won't talk about that one. But I think the high ape is even more interesting than the drunken ape theory. But pretty much kind of like what Leo said is exactly that.
Yeah.
Is that our ancestors, when they lived back in the rainforest or whatever, in the forest, and fruit would fall into the forest floor
Yep.
and start to rot, and that the rotting process would also ferment the sugars in the fruit.
Yep.
And that would release a very strong smell, which then the apes would come down from their trees and get the fruits and eat it. Now, here's the thing. There was actually a good side effect of not only of the buzz. The buzz was just a happy coincidence.
Mhm.
But the reason why the apes were coming down the trees to get the fermented fruit was because they realized there was an added benefit of the, let's say, the alcohol that they found in the fruit,
Mm.
where it will give them more energy. It was a great source for nutrition. And, some of the people that believe in his theory said that one of the reasons why apes came down from the trees was because of fermented fruit, because you could only find fermented fruit on the ground. And that's when they really started scouting for the fermented fruit. And it's even interesting that some of the scientists would say that the apes that were able to develop an ability to digest ethanol, which is fermented sugars, become ethanol, which is the only
It's the
alcohol they were
evaporation.
able to digest.
Yeah.
They were actually able to survive longer, and they had a evolutionary advantage over the other apes that didn't come down from the trees and didn't eat fermented fruit.
That's interesting. And when you talk about fermentation, that's when bacteria, or what they usually use in any alcohol is yeast, eats the sugars and then poops out the CO2. No, that's really what it is.
So you guys are drinking poop right now?
Yeah,
Yes,
that's
yes,
exactly
yes,
what
we
it
are.
is.
Yes, we are.
And then when you get into like wine, it's the same thing. It's eating the sugars from the grapes. When you get into hard liquor, though, you have to distill the alcohol. So you're gonna cook it in a still pot. So it's like copper still pot, and then
So
you
basically,
cook it.
moonshine.
Yeah. So you'd cook it, and then it would evaporate up into a tube, and then drop into another can, and then that's when you got the actual good stuff, which is exactly what you're saying, moonshine. It's
Yeah.
exactly what it is.
I'm really out to date on this, but I remember watching this really old movie called Dukes of Hazzard.
Okay.
Yeah.
The old version or the new version, though?
Yeah.
The one with Willie Nelson. Yeah, I guess the newer version, because there's
Okay.
one in the 70s, but the newer version, I guess. And the newer version is old in our standards, so.
Yeah, it is.
And then they mentioned how, like, moonshine was illegal, or at least the making of moonshine was illegal. So I don't know how that,
So
if that changed at all since then.
So for that, you actually have to have like certain permits and in order to make any type of alcohol.
So what is the
Especially-
alcoholic percentage on moonshine?
100%.
What?
Oh.
the-
No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
What?
No, it's
It is very high, though.
It's a high percentage. Like I think it's 40 to 80%. It's a high percentage.
And just as reference, beer goes anywhere from, let's say, 2% to 12,
18.
13, 18. Yeah, 18%.
18%.
Wine goes anywhere from 14 to like 20.
Yep.
And then whiskey is like 40,
40.
30 to 40.
No, 30's too low.
And then vodka.
Like it just goes up from there. It just
So it's very hard. But but before we go any further, I think the interesting when Anthony told us about the topic, I remembered the drunken ape theory, and what that got me thinking was, are we hardwired to like alcohol?
What do you mean by that?
Because if our ape ancestors, if one of the reasons why they came down from the trees was to look out for the fermented fruit, which gave them more nutrition, which gave them a higher likelihood of survival, and we evolved from those apes, does that mean that we're hardwired? It is within our DNA that we have that tendency to like alcohol.
We do know that alcoholism is genetic. That if you had a
That
parent
it can be genetic.
No,
You could
yeah,
also
like,
form
it
an
can be,
addiction towards
yeah.
it.
Okay,
like-
but what do you mean by genetic, though?
As in, there is a gene for alcoholism, for addiction to alcohol. And then, how do you know if you have that gene? Well, unless you do some lab test, or you start drinking and all of a sudden you find yourself you can't stop drinking, then yeah, you have either developed alcoholism or you had it in your genes. And once you started tasting alcohol, it kind of awakened, activated that part of you that you didn't know about.
Meaning you become psychotic.
So are you saying,
you don't become a psychotic, you just become addicted.
so are you
No, because
saying
that's
that
exactly
let's
what
say
happened.
people that are alcoholics, they are the ones that have directly evolved from the drunk apes?
Again,
So
if you going down that evolution route, then yeah, sure.
Because it's not only and that's the interesting thing about alcohol. In National Geographic, they made a really interesting article called "The 9,000-Year-Old Love Affair with Alcohol," because alcohol has been in our, let's say, in human society since the very beginning, and that's what I'm saying. Alcohol has played a very important role in human history. And if you can trace it back to our ape ancestors, and that might be one of the reasons why our ape ancestors they climbed down from the trees to search out for fermented fruit. You could make the argument that alcohol has shaped human history for the better, maybe up until the last 100 years.
Maybe. Yeah.
Because there's another argument that a lot of historians say that it's a huge argument between the humans, the Neolithic. Yeah, did the Neolithic era start because of bread or because of beer? Because the Neolithic era started when humans started to stop being hunter and gatherers and they settled down to be farmers.
Mm-hmm.
And now some historians argue that it was because of bread.
Mm-hmm.
But then other historians say that it was because of beer. Because back then, beer actually had it was more nutritional for people to drink.
Right.
It was a source of nutrition. It was even a source of hydration because water back then didn't have water filtration system, and beer was healthier to drink than water itself.
Well, because of the whole fermentation process, where
And also for the audience, keep in mind that beer and Neolithic era and beer today are very different things. They're not the same thing.
And anything that we drink nowadays, like moonshine, Moonshine is way, way, way more alcohol than
Yeah.
like any ape would have probably picked up.
Oh yeah. I
on
mean,
the
when
ground.
we talk about and that's true, because when we talk about fermented fruit, if you could say a percentage of alcohol is probably like 1%,
Yeah.
2%, whatever it might be. And it was very low, and even like to say the early beers also had a low alcoholic percentage. But I think it's just really interesting to see the role that alcohol has played in human history. And like when you guys, and that's my, like, I guess my question is, when you guys think about that, what comes to your minds? What do you guys think about like these theories?
Usually I associate alcohol with celebration, right? You use it for special events like weddings, anniversaries, romantic dinners. Of course, there's also the abuse of alcohol, which we're going to get into that later. So that usually, like when somebody mentions alcohol, that's what comes into mind. I think of a party, I think about celebration, I think about people trying to have a good time.
Well, I mean for alcohol, I think and I think this is a lot of the reason why we talk about it. After I realized how things like came together and how they worked, and when we started actually making it to be either safely consumed or so that it had some type of, substance to it. When I started learning about it and started like getting used to what that is and drinking it and stuff, I don't think I start thinking of it that way. I think of it more of like it's a drink that you have an option to taste.
But and again, like it goes back to, I keep breaking the conversation back. But again, the importance that it played in human history.
You're asking about that?
Yeah, because again, alcohol, specifically beer, for in other types of alcohol, but it was a huge source of nutrition. Let's say, for example, the Great Pyramids in Egypt were built, right? With a lot of manpower. Do you know what was near the Great Pyramids?
Water?
No. Well,
a lot
of
the
Nile
River.
Sand?
A huge brewery. The Egyptian workers, they were paid with beer.
Wait, so you're telling me that the whole reason that they built that thing so high up, so many stones, is because of beer?
Nah, dude, I still think aliens did it.
I mean, come on, think about it. That's Sphinx.
No, but I don't know, but yeah, I don't know if it was because of beer, but
that
it was
is still standing today. So what you're telling me
and
is
also,
if we just give everybody beer,
no, I don't
would
know.
be a
It's
standing
not because
building.
it's not because they built it because of beer, but their payment was beer.
So
And
why would you do
accepted-
something?
I thought they were even paid. I bet they were just slaves.
No, they were paid.
Okay, so
and they were paid because if they weren't paid, they would have to pay a tax on slavery back then. So they had to use some kind of payment, and what they used as payment was beer.
So yes, they were building this up for
the beer. Yeah. But not only that, but then the fact that one of the biggest sources of nutrition of the workers of the Great Pyramids was beer.
Well, I mean, you think about beer, you're thinking about the grains, the hops, you're thinking about the wheat. Think about all these things that are being put into it.
And water. Most importantly, water.
I guess, if you want to say that. But when you're talking about those things, you're talking about the actual carbohydrates that we eat through bread.
Yes, because beer is, if you're trying to be on a diet, I'm sorry you can't drink beer. Beer is very, very high caloric, and
Wait, here's the thing. What's faster? Drinking carbohydrates or eating carbohydrates?
Oh, that's what I'm saying. It's drinking.
Yeah.
It's already, everything is, processed and broken down for you, and digestion is a lot easier. And that's what I'm saying. And this is where it gets really interesting. The fact that maybe humanity took one of its biggest steps, which was to settle down and to become farmers because of beer. Like that's huge. It was alcohol, the desire to produce better alcohol, better nutrition from themselves from alcohol that drove the humanity to stop doing what they had been doing for thousands of years before and to settle down and to become farmers. The birth of society might have been caused because of alcohol, because of beer.
Mm. But here's the other question is why would they change from protein, going around being nomads, killing other animals, to settling down and doing beer?
Because it's a lot easier for you to farm for your own food than for you to go hunting for your own food.
Okay, so because we're lazy as human beings.
I guess so, yeah.
I don't think of it as lazy. I think of just being innovative.
Exactly. You gotta
that's how it
change
is,
the
right?
perspective. Yeah, change the perspective. They weren't lazy. They were smart people. They were very
right.
smart.
Yeah, now I understand. Okay.
Think about us today. You know, people probably even 10 years ago, they would think that, you know, we'd be too lazy to do our own groceries because they're bringing groceries to our door.
See, that's what I'm saying.
And the way we look at it is like it's just a really convenient.
It's innovation.
So what you're saying, Leo, is that really what drove humanity forward as a species wasn't beer, wasn't alcohol, but it was actually the search for convenient life, a comfortable life.
Luxurious, convenient life.
Yeah, dude.
Get everything brought to you.
Which, if you think about it, that's kind of true. It's funny because everything that we do is done so that our lives are comfortable.
Yep.
I mean, that's the only thing we aim for usually.
Well, but then there's exceptions in society where people
or
go out of their way not to make their lives comfortable. Let's say, for example, next Sunday we're going to go hiking. That's not comfortable at all. Why do we do that?
We go hiking with... Look, here's the thing.
But that doesn't make
your life
hiking
comfortable. In a no.
Oh, by the way,
does,
I think I'm bringing Jasper.
Because you're doing that comfortably.
Not this
okay,
one.
Not this
comfortably.
Okay.
Hello.
Sorry, hold on. It's just because the next Sunday we're going hiking and we're gonna do the Franconia Ridge, and the Franconia Ridge is about 10 miles and it's a very rocky traverse, and it gets up to the elevations like 4,000 feet. And there's about 5 miles of those 10 miles. So half of the time that you're hiking there, it's above tree line. So it gets very windy and stuff. So I don't think he would do a very good.
No.
First, you have to get him used to hiking in lower altitudes and easier conditions, and before getting there.
Okay, here's the thing. You're gonna leave. You're gonna go on top of the mountain. Why?
I don't know. It's
because you don't normally do that.
No, yeah,
because it's something that you can do for a weekend and then come back home and live a comfortable life, and then go back out for a weekend and then come back home for it. It's still going to be comfortable because you know that you're going to go home.
I'm not hiking because of comfort. I'm hiking because I'm looking for a challenge. It's almost as if you're hiking to get connected with your primal self. Your ancestral self. And I'm serious.
But now think about it.
Why do so many people nowadays, and we're getting way off topic, but why do so many people nowadays search for a simpler life or a wilder life?
Yeah, that's a question for another day.
It is.
So
because we're also going to open a whole different can of worms here.
But here's the real question, okay? Can you really justify drinking? Can you justify why you drink, when you drink? That's the real question.
It depends what you mean and what your intentions are with drinking.
Okay, and let's start there. What do you mean by that?
I mean, my personal view, I don't think there's anything wrong with responsible drinking.
Mm-hmm.
I think it becomes a problem when a person has no control over their drinking, or they drink too much to the point that, you know, they become intoxicated and they are unaware of their surroundings and the things that they're doing. And in fact, I think it even becomes dangerous at that point to themselves and to the people around them.
Okay.
So,
but the real question is, can you really justify that it's okay to drink?
What do you mean by justify? Like,
Yeah, it's just like when you,
because when you say, I guess when you're saying justify, and maybe that's where Leo is. Well, that's why he's asking that. Is when you say justify, it comes with like that presupposition that it's something that's not good.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, if there is another side of it where people believe that there's no way that it's okay, and it
yeah,
could go from
honestly, now this reminds me of when Elizabeth Warren announces her candidacy for president in 2020. She records a video of herself.
And
then
she opens a beer at the end.
Like a really cringy video of her. Let me go get a beer. Like, what the heck?
Yeah,
Like, why? Are you
but why did she have to do that? You know what I mean?
To connect with people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's trying to connect with people.
So, and that's my thing is the reality is that there is some weight to it when you're drinking. Is there is a law that says you can't be 21 or you can't be younger than 21 drinking unless in different states it talks about how unless you have a parent that's there, or unless you're at home, stuff like that, and you're 18 and older. But there's a law for it, and there is a weight to it saying that you shouldn't do it, like especially when people are what do you call it, when they're alcoholics,
Because-
and they have to go to AA meetings, and they try to get off of it, and that's why there's those weights to it,
Yeah.
where you're saying there is
Because
some
when you say,
idea to
when
justify
you say,
it.
when you ask, can we justify it?
Mhm.
Justify it to who or to what?
To anybody that walks up, like
Is there anybody that we need to justify to?
okay,
stop to think about
if
that?
we're talking about the moral of justification, sure, because sometimes, and especially if we get personal, we can talk about some people that would definitely say that you need to justify to them. But I think that the justification is something that's within yourself. Because sometimes when you're drinking, you realize that while you're drinking, that you get tipsy or close to drunk, and you're like, wait a second, what am I doing? Or you're in a scene that's not good, stuff like that. So what my point is like there is weight to it, no matter where you're at, what you're doing. So how would you justify that? That's what I'm saying. That's it.
Again, that word justify is still getting to me.
I think
So-
you're lingering too much
Yeah,
on justification and
maybe.
just
Well, again,
not-
I get, because I think that Leo is just hung up on that word because it's such it's a negative word, and
well, just justification is not negative.
It's not a
Or
negative word. It's
yeah,
a heavy word.
just
it
a
has
yeah.
a lot of meaning behind it. Like, what does it mean to be?
A woman comes up to
Justified.
you and said, "My kid just died from drinking too much. Why are you drinking?"
Hmm.
If you really
Well,
want me to bring it
really-
that way,
really, then in that point, the problem is not me drinking. The problem is her, and not being more careful of her child. If she allowed her child to get in a situation where, like, put himself in danger.
yeah, but
then,
you
like,
don't know her situation. You can't say that.
so
I
I guess
guess.
what Anthony's asking
Or-
is why drink if you know all of the negative side effects and the consequences, the negative consequences they can have. Why still choose
your
to drink?
liver is going to deteriorate over time while drinking.
Well, I think that comes with the abuse of alcohol.
Well, but
Like,
let's see,
yeah.
but and that's when Anthony kind of sent us the outline for today's topic, and that's what I started thinking. It's yes, alcohol can definitely turn bad. Alcohol can definitely influence us to do some negative things. Some people can become addicted to alcohol, and it can ruin lives. But that is the case about anything, nearly anything and everything under the sun in the world. Is anything that could have been made for to make our lives better can easily also make can destroy our lives.
Like, too much of anything.
So yeah, and I think that's I guess that's at the end of the day, that's the moral of the story. Too much of anything can become really bad.
Mm.
Of course, some things are much easier. It's figuring out what is where is the line. It's a fine line, and I guess there's some substance, there's some things out there that it takes a lot less for you to cross that line of too much.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, when you when we're talking about this, there are a lot of baggages to certain things. Like nowadays, if we're talking about guns, how can you justify having a gun? And when I'm saying that is because people
that
are
can get
so
political really fast.
yeah, no, and alcohol is the same way. There was the prohibition before.
Yep.
Like
I
it
mean,
was a
long 100 years ago, nearly 100 years ago.
About
Next year it's going to be 100 years. About
and then, but that's not my point. Is that it's now? I'm saying my point is before there was one. There was a reason why people said that you should never have it.
That's why for me the history of alcohol and how closely it's tied to some pretty big evolution, or pretty big man, it's not evolution is not the word that I'm looking for, but pretty
Like
big
role?
steps of humanity took some pretty big steps forward because of, let's say, the production of alcohol. How closely tied alcohol is to human history. I think that's what it's interesting how people would just want to prohibit that and completely end it.
Are you saying
I
it's
don't know what
weird?
I'm saying. What?
No. Well, when you think about it that way, during that time, people were so against it that they would hide away and sneak alcohol into their homes. And then afterwards, there was this whole like fight over alcohol itself.
And that's what okay, there you go. I found it. That's what I was trying to say. The fact that something that was so vital to human survival became such a vice.
Yeah.
In 1,000 years. Again, not to beat a dead horse, but bring it back. Alcohol is a source of nutrition, of quick nutrition. It was a pretty sustainable source of hydration and nutrition back in the day. But then within 1,000 years, it became such a great vice where a country, a nation would try to prohibit it from our lives, and we would not have it.
But my thing is nowadays,
why still drink it? And it's a good question. It's like back then we drank it because it was good for us. There was a nutritional aspect to it. It helped us to survive. But nowadays, it's actually doing the opposite, because if you drink too much of it, like Anthony said, it can really fuck up your liver, and it can really fuck up your life as a whole. If you become
I was about to say,
if you become
it's more than
addicted
just
to
your
it.
liver. It like it's your whole life, dude.
Yeah.
Like
I
think honestly, I think even in a case like they say that majority of rape cases have alcohol involved. Like how much of a serious problem is it? But are we blaming alcohol for rape? Like no.
So then why? It then goes back to the question: why still drink it? What do we get from drinking alcohol? Okay, so I guess in a responsible manner. Sorry, but in a responsible manner, what do we get if we drink alcohol responsibly? Why do we still want to drink it?
I guess. It's
Why
just
do you
for the
drink it,
taste.
Anthony? Because you're pretty you like your alcohol.
I do.
And
Not to say that I'm alcoholic.
No,
but
he's definitely not. He's definitely. I'm his roommate, and he's definitely not an alcoholic. But why do you still like alcohol?
I think
what is it about it?
I think it's really interesting. That's the first thing. I think it's really, really interesting when you start to like look at it in a different perspective. Because before I looked at it in a perspective like, oh man, alcohol, it's not good for me. It's especially when you're younger, because that's all you were taught. Everything about it is, it's not good for you.
It's a big
Don't
no-no.
ever. Yeah. But when you turn 21, you're like, all right, well, let's try everything that we can. And when you realize like some things really taste terrible, but some things there's got something to it. You're like,
and that's alcohol for you.
I'm kind of interested in it. And then when you start to like develop a taste for it, you're like, this is actually a lot more interesting because you learn once you start learning about it, you start learning that there's different types of hops. You start learning that there's different types of tastes. There's different types of ways you can make the taste a certain way. Like it's like almost like juice, but has something tied to it that's a lot more than what juice is. I think that's really what I would say.
It depends where you get your juice.
It's
like
a craft.
It's like
Yeah,
like
it is,
50%
and I
sugar.
I really do appreciate it because when you talk about like meat, I really do appreciate meat because you cut it a certain way. You have certain types of cuts from different types of the body, and then you enjoy it because you start to get intrigued by it. It's the same thing with pizza. We like our cheese pizza, but we also like our pepperoni pizza. Why do you like pepperoni over cheese?
I was about to say earlier, I think it just becomes a matter of preference. If you like, assuming this is done in a responsible manner.
Yeah.
On the other hand of the spectrum, when it becomes abusive, personally for me, the reason why I'm turned off by alcohol is because I never met my grandfather because he was an alcoholic who died from liver cancer.
Right.
So I never got to meet him, and my dad told me how he died when I was a little kid, and that kind of stuck to me. And what at 6-7 years old, I was like, no, this is not something I want to do in my life. Like, no, that's not how I want to go out. And my dad, obviously growing up with his dad, obviously very traumatized. He talked about his traumatized experience with his alcoholic dad and how he didn't want to repeat that example for me. So aside from like a glass of wine before going to bed, that's the most I've seen my dad drink. My dad like really like stays away from that kind of stuff. And that's what I grew up with.
So that's why you don't like to drink alcohol.
No. Because a lot of people think, it's because he's religious. Like, it's a religious reason. Like, no, it's because it became a personal reason before it became a religious reason.
Yeah, and I get that. I totally do, and I respect that a lot. And I think that's where there's a difference. You get the one side of, it's great to party with. If you drink enough, you're gonna feel really good, and then you get the other side of it where you drink so much you lose feelings.
And don't get me wrong, I do understand the appeal of why people would want to drink, enough to get buzzed or to get like a little bit drunk, because in a sense, like it's a confidence booster. Like it's a
yeah, that's like exactly what it is.
When you're drunk, when you're buzzed, when you're like kind of unaware of what you're doing, you kind of let go of that fear that's been holding back. That chick across the bar that you've been wanting to hit on. Take a couple shots, like boom, you're Superman.
Do you think that because I guess the question that is in my mind as I'm listening to you guys talk about that is still like, why did humans continue to choose to drink alcohol?
Yeah.
I think what
throughout
I just
history, and that's what I'm saying. Like, could it be because of that confidence boost that it gives you that your inhibition just goes way down, and you're just so more susceptible to doing whatever you wanted to do.
Yeah, man, whatever.
And as I said earlier, the dangers of that, majority of rape cases have alcohol involved. Like, girls who drink too much, all of a sudden they find themselves in the bed with a guy they don't know.
Yeah.
Right. So.
Yeah, and but I think it ties into the responsibility.
Yeah.
And that brings up the real question: to get drunk or to not get drunk. That is the real question.
Okay,
as
now
I said
are you
earlier-
saying? Wait. Are you saying
He's
to
like,
get
whoa.
Let's define drunk. Are you
Drunk.
saying drunk as in I'm shit-faced, I cannot deal with life right now,
Okay.
or to get drunk as I'm tipsy?
That's our swear word for the day, people.
I think
No,
he
we
said
have
both.
one F word.
No, he said multiple. There's no way. Thanks, Achila. Appreciate
Okay,
that.
now listen, talking about inhibition. That's what happens when you drink beer. You just get a little loosey-goosey and some swear words start flying around.
No. Here's the thing. You can get tipsy and know that you're tipsy, and then you're like, all right, I'm going to stop. I think sometimes that's where you cut off. But when you get shit-faced, you're doing that on purpose, or you're getting
Like
pressured to do
like
that.
you drink with the intention of getting drunk.
Yeah.
So you're asking to get shit faced or not to get shit faced?
Yeah, we can
When
go
you
there.
when you
I
when
mean,
you use
tipsy.
the word drunk,
Would you say tipsy is drunk?
I think tipsy is definitely not drunk, but tipsy can still lead you to do things where could put you in a bad spot. I wouldn't drive.
It depends on
tipsy.
the person, I guess.
Even tipsy, I wouldn't drive tipsy.
That's good. That's really responsible.
That's
Actually,
really
don't
dumb.
ever.
That's
don't
really
ever.
dumb. But
Yeah.
like, why would you ever want to drive tipsy? It's just not a good idea.
Yep.
Really not good.
Thank you.
So
'Cause we need to say that.
because then that one question becomes two questions. It's like to get tipsy or not to get tipsy, and to get shit faced or not to
Yeah.
get shit faced.
I mean, either way, I think mostly what I'm saying is to get shit faced, because after shit face, you sometimes you don't even remember what happened that day.
Okay, if we're talking about to get tipsy, sure, I don't mind. I'll be honest, I like getting a little tipsy. It's cool.
Because it's cool. Yeah, man. Cool for school, man.
No, because it's and that's where you try to figure out it. Alcohol, when your inhibition is lower to a point where you still have control over your body,
Yeah.
you are a little bit more open.
Okay.
I guess your walls kind of come down a little bit.
You become more social.
You become more social,
Yeah.
more approachable sometimes, depending on who you are. But it could be. I'm speaking for myself. I become a little bit more approachable. Things are funnier when I'm tipsy.
Okay.
It's I guess you can have a good
But
time.
what's the reason why it gets funnier? That's my question.
I don't know, because it becomes silly. It's that thing, that self-consciousness, that
Okay.
everything, especially when you become an adult, you develop this self-consciousness, which is great, right? It stops you from doing stupid shit. But then when you
Like
put a
your
little
prefrontal cortex fully developed.
yes, I didn't want to get there because
We're gonna
Uh,
get too
Paul, I
nerdy.
think Angelo wants to.
Yeah, go for it.
How do we define responsible manner of like alcoholic? Going back a little bit.
Oh, being responsible. Oh, but that I
who-
think
who
I think
asked
that
that, if you don't
that ties into everything.
Angelo, who asked that? If you don't mind. Oh, there. Okay.
So when you talk about responsible, I think you have to know yourself. So the first
and
time,
how do you? And then that's the
but
thing.
the-
How
here-
do you
here-
know yourself?
yeah. The first time you drink, you're not gonna know, and that's why the responsible thing for that is having people around you that you trust in an environment that you trust. I think that is the most responsible thing you can do. The first thing.
What he's saying, if I could put in plain English, get shit faced once in your life with people that you trust in a place that is
Hold on.
safe.
That's
Honestly, no.
not what I'm
Like, I don't
saying.
think-
That's not what I'm saying.
No,
At all.
honestly, I don't believe that. I
Yeah.
think like if I'm going to pull Jordan Peterson out on this,
Oh God.
he really talks about knowing yourself, knowing
Mhm.
that one, you're capable of doing a lot of good things, but
Mhm.
at the same time you're capable of doing a lot of bad things.
Yeah,
And for
but
you to become familiar with that, like know your
But
limits.
okay, but now I'm going to
but
play
that's
the
the thing.
devil's
How
advocate.
do you know your limits unless you know when you get there?
Yeah, and that's
I
what I was going to say. It's like playing the
Yeah.
devil's advocate, but it's like you only know your limits. You only know who you are when you push to the limits. That's how you become.
I mean,
If
I don't
you-
think
if
I
you
don't think
live
every
in
single
your-
time. I think you know that there's a danger. So this is when we're talking about the tipsy part. It's like when you know that you're tipsy, you feel a little weird. That's when I say usually that's when I back off sometimes.
Mhm.
I'm like, wait, whoa. Usually I have like 2 or 3 of these, and then now after 2 of them, then I'm like feeling this weird like tipsy.
But you're
kind
still
of,
pushing yourself to the limit.
Yeah,
you're
you are
playing with that
technically, yeah,
line. It's like
technically,
you're
yeah.
not just living in the safe zone, but you're trying to say, all right, you're figuring it out. So I guess there's to drink responsibly means that you have to troubleshoot a couple of times.
Yeah, obviously don't start with vodka.
No. Well,
Yeah,
and hey,
yes, that's actually real. No, that's real. That's real. I
I
really
learned that
appreciated
the hard way. I learned that the hard
All
way.
right, are we
And,
going to story?
Oh, I am going to
All
story
right.
mode. I am going to story
All right,
mode.
ready, go.
Story. And look, and that's what I'm talking about. Is that from experience, I have pushed my limits way too far.
Yeah.
And I've learned really quick where was my limit, and
Yeah.
I realized that I am a lightweight person, which means that I cannot drink too much too fast. And that's exactly what I did, a couple years ago.
Was it a couple?
2
or
years ago.
Good amount of
It's
years.
going to be 2 years in October.
2 years in October.
2 years in October.
I was thinking about the other one in Cambridge.
Oh, yeah.
That one's even better. I like that one more.
When I break the glass.
Yeah, that one's better. That's more around
when I
your first time. Yeah, I think that one's.
Yeah,
nice.
when I turned 21, my best friend came over my house, and he was like, "All right, my parents are not home, and they were away for the weekend."
Yeah.
Usually experimentation, knowing yourself, really begins when your parents are not home.
Parents are not. Oh God.
I am not,
Do not
saying
read into that. Do not.
I am not saying this to encourage this kind of behavior,
Yes.
but and then my friend came over, and he was like, "All right, man, we're gonna get shit-faced tonight." And that was like really my first time actually drinking, because before I had like Smirnoff Ice. And if you know anything about alcohol,
That's
it's
like a
Smirnoff
teenager's
Ice.
drink.
It is. It's like the lowest thing that you can find. But anyway, so we went to a bar, and this is the first time. I'm 21. This is the first time that I'm going to a bar. Because, by the way, up until that moment, I had a very negative view towards alcohol, and I was very black and white about alcohol. So that was the first time that I actually went to a bar when I was 21. It wasn't the first time that I drank, but it was the first time that I went to a bar, and I was totally out of my league, bro.
Yeah.
Like I was just, that was not my space. And then my friend, he was like, "All right, I'm gonna order you," and he ordered me, I think it was rum and Coke first. And I had a rum and Coke, and rum has a very strong taste. So going from, let's say, Smirnoff Ice to rum, it's
so different.
Bam! It really hits you.
So different.
So I had one, and I was set. I'm like, all right, cool. I drank for my 21st birthday. We're done. And he's like,
time to go home.
Nope, vodka and Sprite now. I'm like, what do you mean, bro? What? So I take a vodka and Sprite, and like by now my legs are just like they're shaking already. It's 2 drinks. It's super hardcore.
Oh god. You're like, this is hardcore.
Long story short, I had 2 vodka and Sprites and 2 rum and Cokes, and then I had 2 shots of, I think it was whiskey. It was something. I don't know. It was another hard liquor. I don't remember what it was.
I believe
it was
that
2
because
shots of
he likes
whatever
that.
it was.
Yeah.
Man, I remember I looked to my friend. I was like, bro. And this is the first time that I got drunk.
Oh my god.
I'm like, bro, I can't feel my legs. How am I gonna move, bro? How am I gonna move? So we kind of like stumble out of the bar, and as we open the door of the bar to go outside, we see a cop. And then thinking back, it wasn't really a cop. It was a crossing guard, just making sure that all the drunk people were able to cross across the street safely without getting run over. And then I'm like, shit, bro. The cops are going to get us. And I'm like, yo, just act normal. Act cool, man. Act cool. So we're 2 drunk-ass people are trying to cross the street, acting normal. And as soon as we get to the other side, we just book it home.
Yeah.
And pretty much everything else was just
trying to go to sleep.
Yeah, trying to go to sleep, trying to make food for me and my friend while completely drunk is very hard.
What was it, ramen?
I don't remember. It was a long time ago. And I had to like almost carry my friend up the stairs. It was some steep stairs. But yeah, that was the first time that I got drunk. But I think, and to be honest, and I know that this is like, it's very tricky to say things like that, but I don't regret doing that. I don't. The 2 times that I got really drunk, this time and another time that was almost 2 years ago, I don't regret it. Because those are, first of all, kind of what Anthony said. I did it in a responsible manner.
Yeah.
The first time was with a friend that is about 5 years older than me. And he had been drinking before. Mm-hmm. So he kind of took care of me. And the second time was at a place where I knew the people and I trusted everyone around me, and they were able to take care of me. So the 2 times that I did get drunk was in a very responsible manner, and those 2 times taught me so much about myself. And one of them is the fact that I hate being completely wasted.
Yeah.
It's like, and especially the second time, I looked at myself. I'm like, this is not fun.
Yeah.
When you're so drunk that the floor is just like jello,
Yeah.
and you're literally, you cannot stand up, and you need help from other
Yeah.
people, and you don't remember anything. And then
Yep.
when you're looking back, all you can remember is like flashes of the night before. It's not fun at all. It's really not fun. As soon as you get to that point when you're losing control, man, it's a slippery slope.
But imagine this was in a place where you knew that you did not like the certain people, or
Oh, here's the first F word and the last F word of the podcast. I would
Yeah.
have been fucked.
yeah, Yeah.
I would have been screwed, bro. Like, I really would have.
Yeah.
It's terrible. It's not fun. It is not fun.
and that's the real answer to that responsibility. If you know where you're at, you'll know when it's not good. You'll know when it's not right. You know when you just know afterwards. You're like, all right, I know myself now. To next time, if after being with people that are actually really your friends and really are gonna be there for you, and you know that afterwards that you're like, I did not like that. That's when you know that's when you hit your limit. You're like, okay, so this is it.
But I don't think we answered Andre's question though.
So being responsible, if you want, the real answer is knowing how much you can drink.
Which means that you have to try. You have to
have to.
troubleshoot.
Yeah, and
And
knowing,
I think this is where it gets really tricky,
Mhm.
because that is a very fine line. It's I would even say it's a little bit dangerous.
it is,
To
but
getting out of your comfort zone and trying and seeing where your limit is means that you're going to fail, means that you're going to mess up.
Mhm.
You're going to get yourself in situations that you don't want to be in. So I guess what Anthony
hiking
said,
is dangerous too.
but that is true. And but
I think-
that's what
yeah.
Anthony said. It was like, just make sure that you're around people that you trust and that have the best interests.
I think
mind.
Your best interest
I
in
think
mind.
it all
Thank you.
goes back to intentions. You know, as we said earlier, you know, the alcohol kind of like it's an inhibitor, right? If you already have intentions to, you know, get wasted, hook up with a bunch of people, blah blah, like go crazy, then like yeah, you just
That's not responsible.
That's not responsible.
It's not.
That totally
and
not responsible.
And here's the thing: is
Because
like,
there's some people that chooses to be irresponsible.
yeah, and
Good.
if you choose that, look,
It's on them. Like
I'm saying, and he just said it right now, and I'm sure Leo's gonna say it too. We don't agree with that. We're not saying don't ever do that irresponsibly.
And yeah, and the fact that, let's say, we drink during the podcast, and the fact that we're doing a episode about alcohol, and we talk it in a, let's say, in a positive light, doesn't mean that we condone irresponsible drinking.
Yeah,
It's
not at all.
having appreciation for the craft of alcohol making, having appreciation for the history that alcohol has played in human history, and then taking all of that in, appreciating the drink, and then choosing to be responsible. Sometimes the responsible way for some people is not drinking it, barely ever drinking it, like Leo.
Yeah.
okay.
Others are, we have done things and been in situations where we know our limit,
Yeah.
and now we choose to drink in a responsible way.
Yeah, and I think that's the best way to really close out this podcast is, you know, us knowing, letting you guys know this is the responsibility, and that it's on you. It really is. If you know who you are, your friends know who you are, be around them, be with them, be responsible.
And I guess it's know why you're drinking.
Yeah.
As Leo talked about, is we had a friend at this other party that we call it sad drinking. And sad drinking is when you're going through a hard time in your life and you're
Yeah.
drinking to escape. And that's something that I just don't agree with, is abusing a substance so that you escape from reality. That's never.
That's with
that's-
anything.
It is with anything. It's
Open
binge
your
eating.
eyes,
It's
look
binging
to the
Netflix.
sky and see.
Binge Netflix shows, drinking, doing drugs. It's
Yeah.
like doing something so that you can just completely escape your reality. That's a recipe for disaster. A
It's
recipe
not
for
good.
disaster.
Yeah.
So it's like just really know yourself, know your limit, which means that you have to do some trials, and then know why you're drinking. That's it
Mhm.
for me personally. And I guess maybe we should close here. Why do you personally drink? And I go first. I guess I personally drink because one, I have acquired a taste for beer, especially for beer and for wine.
Oh yeah. Beer. Oh.
And I have learned a lot about beer and the craft behind it. And the more I learn, the more I appreciate it, and the richer it becomes.
Mm.
And then I guess the secondary reason is because I like the buzz. It feels good, and I think done in the right times, it's totally okay. What about you,
Yeah.
Anthony?
For me, it's the same thing. Like the craft. It's you really do get a taste from it. That's nothing like any other drinks. You can be like, oh well, you can get apple juice. And
Nope,
then
not the
have some
same.
cider. It's not the same. It's really not. And that's not me trying to be sophisticated, but it's me trying to say like I do actually enjoy it. I also like whiskey. It's a really hardcore drink, and I don't suggest everybody trying it neat or trying it with a shot. But it's a really tasty drink when you get the taste for it. The first time you drink it, it's not going to be great. I'm going to be honest.
It is not. Nor the 50th. Right here. I still struggle with drinking whiskey, and I've tried.
It's harsh, but when you actually understand, like, man, this has been in a barrel for 20 years, for 15 years, for 12 years. These people take forever to actually get a barrel out there, and to be able to,
It's a work of art. You're
Yeah.
drinking a work of art.
yeah, and that's
You're
awesome.
drinking the Mona Lisa.
Yeah.
Yeah, so let's just
Leo.
Leo answer, and then we'll answer one more question.
What about you, Leo?
Why do I drink? If ever.
You do. Okay, let's be
Stop,
honest.
please.
Yeah,
You
Be
do
honest
drink.
with
You gotta
us.
be honest. We're all honest.
On occasion, like for me, it's more for special occasions. For example, the other week was my cousin's birthday, or going out with friends.
Or hang out here.
Yeah.
See, that's
Yeah,
what I'm
yeah.
saying.
Don't
But,
worry.
Leo,
It's
don't
like-
Leo,
it's not-
don't lie, because there are many times that you have come over and you have drank
Some
cider.
Yeah,
Ciders,
okay,
yeah.
yeah, ciders, yeah. But
you had a
like-
couple of ciders.
But
like,
cider
that's it.
is alcohol.
Okay, yeah, I know.
Don't exclude
Right.
it from it, even though it's a light alcohol. It's still alcohol. So, like, even in those moments, why do you choose to drink alcohol?
Yeah. Why not? Why not just say
Sure,
no?
to celebrate, we
Mhm.
get that. But
Mhm.
when you're not celebrating, when it's just a regular old day, why do you choose to drink it?
Yeah.
Because it's the only thing you guys have to drink.
No, because you
Come on,
we,
you
that
bring
is a
it
lie.
here.
We
You guys
do
don't
not
even
buy.
have-
We do
you guys
not
don't even
buy.
have juice. You
No.
guys don't even have
No.
juice.
What? We
No.
have iced tea right now.
Yeah,
Okay,
we do not.
iced tea,
No.
please.
We've had hot tea
Please.
in
What?
those moments.
We don't buy ciders anymore.
Yeah, we
so
don't.
every time that you, my friend, drink cider here is
It's
because,
because
you
buy
bring
it.
it.
Yes,
All
thank
right.
you.
And funny enough,
Yeah.
I did drink for religious reasons. When we went to the liturgist
Yes.
in Cambridge,
Okay.
they had the options where there was grape juice and bread, and then wine and like the sour bread.
Yes.
I
Okay.
thought I got in the line for grape juice,
Oh.
and it turned out
It was a line for wine.
and there was wine. And then when I drank, like, oh my god, it tastes so.
Leo, but you still didn't answer the question. Why do you drink when
Why-
it's not for
yeah.
celebratory or religious reasons?
I guess like just for the sake of it.
Because you
Yeah.
like it.
All right, so let's just get to
Okay.
the last question.
Okay.
From a religious standpoint, do you think drinking with the purpose to get drunk can be considered sinful?
Yes.
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 Yes, definitely.
Yes.
Definitely. Who? Oh yeah.
Oh, Jenny. Hi,
Okay.
Jenny.
Hey,
Oh,
Jenny.
it's his girlfriend.
What's up?
Yeah, it's my girlfriend.
Aww.
But
That is a really good question.
But drink in a biblical perspective, yes, that is a sin. God.
No, no.
Yeah.
Drinking is not a
No,
sin.
drinking to get drunk.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay, but even that, it's like, is to get drunk a sin? I don't think so. Now, what happens when you're drunk? That's when you get into sinful territory. What about the act of getting drunk? If you were left in a room by yourself and you were shit-faced, how is that a sin?
No, it's when you become a drunkard. That's what it talks about.
Yeah,
is
the,
when you're,
the Bible does warn against drunkenness.
yeah.
So
Because
then,
what it does say
then
that.
again, it's not the fact of getting drunk. It's what, let's say, repeatedly getting drunk can lead to.
No, it's the fact that you live on, like, it's what we talk about. It's like if you're getting shit faced every single time, it's just not one. It's not responsible because
also it's
you
not
know
healthy.
you know yourself. You know that it's not good for you. And the other part is we talk about the whole mindset of being, one with God. You can't be thinking of things unseen when you're drunk, because you're thinking of the things that are right there in front of you.
So even if you were locked in a room with nothing and no one that could get you into trouble and you got drunk, that's a sin.
Why would you want to do that?
I'm just saying.
Does that sound like something a sane person
no,
would do?
but I'm just saying. Would that be a sin? If you take or let me make this a little bit more clear. If you take the possibility of you doing some stupid stuff while you're drunk and you didn't do anything
Yes.
stupid, is that still a sin?
Yes. Yes.
I disagree.
I have to think about it. I need to look.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If you're home alone, you get drunk.
Yes, I think
Because
because
that
your
reminds
mind
me-
goes to dangerous places, and sometimes
Because-
when we are in it,
Bro, my mind goes to dangerous places when I lack sleep. Is that a sin to not sleep? Because that's what I'm saying. It's like if you're saying that just because your mind goes to dangerous places when you're using a substance, then there's so many other things that I can do that would make my mind go into, let's say, dangerous places, such as a lack of sleep. Is a lack of sleep sin?
yes, you should sleep. Go to sleep.
What are you gonna say, Leo?
Yeah.
That it does remind me of the story of Noah that most people ignore,
Mm-hmm.
where after the flood happens and after the ark lands on this mountain, whatever, Noah goes off to a beach and gets drunk and naked, and his son comes in and sees him naked, and then he calls in their brothers, but they come in and cover it up. The implication is that the son that saw him naked, it was in a sense he ridiculed him, like he ridiculed his father, and that's why he got cursed in the biblical narrative. So I don't know, that is something I need to look into. It's like, no, if you're like drunk by yourself without the temptation of sin, or quote unquote temptation of sin, would that be considered sin?
It
I don't
may
know.
be
My-
that.
but
may
my
be that-
question
But
is
definitely
before-
something I wouldn't recommend.
Yeah, my question is before we even get to this, the actual situation sounds crazy enough. Why would you want to do that?
Yeah, like I
Oh,
said,
no,
would any sane
that's-
person lock himself
That is
up in
my
a room?
question. Why are you doing that?
No, because she was
The
saying,
reasoning behind that.
Well, because can you repeat the question again?
From a religious standpoint, do you think drinking with the purpose to get drunk can be considered sinful?
And that's what I'm saying. It's like drinking with the purpose of getting drunk. I don't think it.
I think it is, because not only is like it's really irresponsible. Like
No, but
like,
what is irresponsible? That's what I'm trying to kind of
and the
divide
Bible,
here.
and also the
What
fact
is-
that the Bible
wha-
warns against it.
Okay,
like,
but sure, the Bible warns against a shit ton of stuff. You still have to try to come through what it means with that. It's like what I'm trying to get at is the act of the state of mind of being drunk. Okay, of course, yes. If you say that you're always drunk, that's kind of stupid. And yes, like Anthony said, you can't be in a heavenly state of mind or whatever he said, and you will be missing out a lot of important stuff, and that's really responsible. So sure, but let's say is the eventual state of mind of being drunk, is that still a sin? If you take away the fact that you would do some stupid shit that could lead you into trouble, is that a sin? It's a state of mind
if
of
we
being
take out temptation and sin, is it a sin?
what?
That's what I'm hearing, is because we take out anything that could go wrong.
No,
Is
I
it the same?
understand what Andre is asking,
Okay.
but I have to think.
Yeah,
about
it's
it.
I guess that's what you
That's
have
a topic
to.
for another day.
No, it's not even a topic. Yes, it is a. But
Yes,
it's
it
a
really
good,
is, though.
It's a good question to think about.
Yeah.
What is really, let's say, the bad thing?
Like
Is
the root
it
cause.
is it the fact that you're drunk, or is it the fact of
While you're drunk, you do
you
really
do
bad.
stupid stuff?
Yeah.
Right.
What is really the bad thing?
So from there, you let us know down in the comments
What you think?
what you think. Yes.
Yeah.
And
Like and subscribe.
we don't even have a YouTube channel yet.
Yeah, we do actually. Okay.
We're gonna have.
I
Yeah.
made one. So just want to say thank you so much for being a part of this long hour. This might be the longest we've done, and it will
This is
probably
only the
remain
second one we've done.
We don't know how to
An
make
hour
your
and
time.
10 minutes.
And if you like this episode, please leave a like, comment down below what some other topics we have. If you're listening on the podcast, or we are also on YouTube, and if you're listening on our podcast on Spotify or on
Yet
if
to be named.
you're listening on YouTube, we're on Spotify, we're on iMusic, and yeah.
And thank you for Jenny and Andre for the great questions that you guys submitted.
Right.
It makes the podcast more interesting.
Yeah. And leave a name in which we should do for the next one.
Yeah.
P.S. I love you, Jenny.
Oh my God! I'm gonna
Yeah.
throw up.
Alright.
The hard thing. The hard thing.
Aw.
And we forgot to do this last week.
What is it?
But we will be posting on Instagram a
yeah.
little poll for you to let us know what you would like for us to talk about. As you saw a little bit from this episode, we have very different point of views about things. So what would you like for us to talk about? Let us know on Instagram. We'll do a little poll.
Yeah, get in our DMs.
And
Where can they find us?
The pilot episode is going to be out this Thursday.
Yep.
You'll be able to find us on, like Anthony said, on YouTube, on Spotify.
The Yet to Be Named podcast.
Yes. And then this episode will be out next Thursday. What day is that? If Sunday is the 19th, Monday is the 20th, Tuesday 21,
24th?
The 24th. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I
Peace.
guess. All right, guys. Have a great night.
All right, good night.
Peace.